My name is Kayla, and I am a married mother of three. I have two young boys and a 13-year-old stepchild. My husband and I live in a small town just outside of Kingston, and I work for the city of Kingston with their public works department. So that gives me a lot of joy. I enjoy the people I work with, and I love the work that I do. So yeah, I've got a very busy family life, obviously with three kids running around all the time. That's a little bit about me. My journey with living transplant actually started a couple of years ago. A girlfriend of mine had a baby, and it very soon after she was born was determined that she would require a liver transplant. And at the time I didn't know a whole lot about it, but did a little bit of research and realized that living liver donation was an option. And so I began the process at that time of seeing if I would be a suitable match. So went through a number of tests, MRI, CT, some of the more the physical aspects of the experience. And at the end of the day, it was determined I wasn't a suitable match. So luckily that baby did get a transplant from an anonymous donor, which was amazing. But at that point in time, I just kind of closed that chapter and thought, okay, well, I did what I could and it just didn't work out this time. So that was fine. Fast forward to this past winter, my sister-in-law was having some medical issues, and very soon into the new year was determined that she would also need a liver transplant, and she went on the list. And at that time, I believe her health was in relatively stable condition, but obviously the donation or the transplant was going to be required. But it wasn't until April, I think, things started to get a little bit worse for her, and there were some additional health complications arising. And so at that point in time, I knew that we were a compatible blood type. And so I started the process again. I filled out my health history form, submitted it to the Living Donor Clinic, and that's kind of how we got things started. So that was at the end of April, start of May, I think it was. And the month of May was quite busy with various appointments and trying to make sure that I was in fact a suitable match. Anatomically, we were suitable, but there's a lot of other kind of tests and appointments and conversations that need to be had just to make sure that I knew exactly what I was getting into and exactly what to expect and all those kinds of things. But everything did work out, and we had successful surgery on the 5th of June this year. I am a big believer in trying to do the right thing when it's possible. And I know that living donation might not be for everybody, but it was a relatively easy decision for me. A lot of people ask why. A lot of people ask why, and I think that's a fair question. And it like I said, it's not for everybody. But to me, we don't get through life in any way, shape, or form on our own. And I saw an opportunity to help and knew that if it was in my power or within my capabilities, I wanted to do something to be able to help and to know that I was helping out a family member and to understand what the ripple effect of that would be, because it's not only about the person that you're donating to, but all the other people affected. And in this case, because it was a family member, very close with my in-laws, for example. So it meant a lot to me to be able to not only give my sister-in-law another chance at life, but to also know that my mother and father-in-law wouldn't have to suffer through the potential of losing a child. I just couldn't let that happen. So that was my why. To be able to give someone another opportunity at life is just kind of it feels good. Feels nice. Donation in my case was not a solitary act. It was not something that I took on by myself. And I think it's important to recognize that it wasn't just me who made this a reality. I had amazing support from my husband. I had amazing support from my family. My parents were with me in the hospital for the duration of my stay as my caretakers. I have amazing friends who stepped up and assisted with pickup and drop off at daycare when required, when I wasn't able to drive, even after being home. My aunt and uncle and cousin who live in the same town as we do were amazing in helping out and staying with the boys when my husband was with me for the initial couple of days, the day of surgery and the day or two afterwards. Just my workplace was amazing. They were so understanding and supportive and really made everything as easy as possible for me. So I'm just incredibly grateful to all of the people in my life who were able to come together and make this a reality, because it was not just me who made this happen. It was a group of people. So I'm very appreciative of everyone for helping out. The overall feeling was support. I mean, I never felt that anyone was trying to dissuade me or encourage me in any way. Like it was something that I brought forward and said that I wanted to do, but everyone was very supportive from the onset. I think there was obviously some concern. My husband was rightfully nervous because it is a major procedure, and while the doctors in Toronto are unbelievable and world class and have had fabulous success, there are still risks involved. So having a young family, there were some pretty difficult conversations that needed to happen before surgery, just to make sure that we were on the same page, that we knew what to expect, sort of thing. I think my parents were nervous. I know that if my child approached me and said, "Hey, I'm having this, I'm perfectly healthy. I'm going to have this voluntary surgery that could potentially put me at risk," I would have questions and concerns about that. So, some concern as well. But overall, I just felt a lot of love and support. And yeah, it was a very positive experience for me overall. The few days leading up to surgery, I was getting quite nervous. I had been pretty calm overall. One thing that I have been prepared for in conversations with the donor team, and I joined an amazing online Facebook group that is strictly for living liver donors, which has been super helpful. But it's an emotional roller coaster, a lot of ups and downs and questions of, is this the right decision? Should I be doing this? How is this going to impact my life moving forward? There's a lot of things to take into consideration. So the couple of days leading up to, I was quite nervous, but by the morning of surgery, there was kind of a calm. It was like, okay, this is happening and it's going to be okay. I think my husband was a little bit nervous watching me be wheeled off down to the operating room, but yeah, no, I felt good. I felt prepared. I had the utmost confidence in the surgical team and all of the doctors that I had spoken with beforehand and the day of, even before heading into surgery. I felt good. Now, when I did get to the operating room, I said, "Is it normal to feel a little bit nervous around now?" And the anesthesiologist said, "Yeah, we can give you something for that." And that's the last thing I remember. So I think that the timing of that was perfect. But yeah, morning of surgery anyways, I certainly felt a lot more calm than I had anticipated. And I think it was just kind of the inevitability of it happening. And here we go. This is it. No going back now. I don't actually know what my first memory is. I had asked my mom to try to keep some notes about different things that had happened in the hospital, because I had been told ahead of time, like, you're probably not going to remember a whole lot for the first couple of days afterwards, but I wanted to be able to really understand what the experience was like, um, even though I had lived it but didn't really know what was going on. So um, some of the memories I have, I'm not sure are if they're actual memories or just because I've read about them. But I do know that when I one of the very first memories I had when waking up was, of course, seeing my family members in the room. That was really lovely. But I did have some pain in my neck, which I thought was a little bit strange. And again, I had been told about that beforehand, but knowing and understanding are two different things, right? Overall, I think it was a good first couple of days from what I can remember. But yeah, it's a very bizarre feeling to not really recall what has happened to you for a significant period of time. So that's a little bit odd, but yeah, I think everything went okay for those first few days anyway. As I had been told beforehand, it's going to be a tough recovery and there'll be limitations to what you're able to do, and you're going to feel tired and you might feel discomfort and things like that. And to hear that and know, okay, that's going to happen is different than living it and understanding, like really going through it. So I think I was taken aback by how long it took me to feel like I was recovering, which sounds bizarre because it's a major surgery and you've had an organ removed or part of an organ removed. So obviously there's going to be some pretty big healing happening. But I think I was just kind of taken aback by how difficult I think the first couple of weeks were. The first few days at home I found to be quite challenging. I had a lot of nausea, which I think is pretty normal after having been under general anesthetic for a significant period of time, like I was. So that was a little bit of a challenge. The other thing, too, I think goes back to like the emotional feelings that come with it. Um, and kind of wrapping your head mentally around what exactly it is you've done. Because again, so much of it is theoretical for so long. And then when it's not theoretical and it's a reality and it's happened, it's just that's been a very interesting experience. And like sometimes just different things will come to me and I'll think like, wow, did that really happen? Or just trying to get a grasp on whether or not, not whether or not it happened, but just like the reality of the situation. That's been an interesting part of it too. By her having this procedure now, someone else is able to be placed to also receive a transplant. It's just, yeah, the ripple effect of it is not something that I think is talked about very much from what I have seen or heard. I think if you're looking into donating, I think that whether you go through with it or not, it's so commendable that it's something that you've even considered because it isn't for everyone. It isn't for everyone. It is a really big deal. It will take up a lot of your time physically and mentally, and you will need to have support. I think my advice would just be ask as many questions as you can, try to connect with people who have already done it. I was so fortunate to have been connected to a previous donor ahead of my surgery through a mutual friend, and the conversations that he and I have been able to have both leading up to surgery and then in the recovery period afterwards. And even now I'm feeling very much back to what I was prior to surgery, which is amazing. It's just nice to connect with someone else who knows and who has been there and who has done it and who you can say like, did this really happen? And they go, yeah, it did. And I feel the same about this or that. I would say, yeah, try to make connections. I think the whole thing about donation is that it's about people helping people, and that doesn't just happen in the operating room. So try to connect with people ahead of time if you're able to. Use the resources at the hospital to get as much information ahead of time as you can to make sure that it's the right decision for you, and to be gracious with yourself if you decide that it's maybe not. Just because it's not for you doesn't mean that there's there's anything wrong with that. It's a personal decision, and if you can, great. And if it's not for you, then that's okay too. But there are a lot of other ways that you can be supportive of the program and of the process and of the journey, and try to find other ways to be involved. If the act of donation is not suitable for you in your life, that's okay. But yeah, the fact that you've even looked into it is pretty remarkable in my book. So yeah, certainly try to use the resources that are available to determine whether or not it's going to work for you.
Oh, how is your sister-in-law doing?
She's doing very, very well. I spoke with her just last week, and she and her fiance are actually getting married this coming weekend. So that is a very big, exciting event for her. Overall, she's doing well, and she's excited to start the next chapter of her life. So I think she's doing very well as can be expected. So it's wonderful to see. I'm sure it'll be an emotional day.
Yeah.
It'll be pretty wonderful. I'm so excited to be a part of it. I do just have to give a huge shout out to every medical professional and everyone that I interacted with through the Living Donor Program, because I just I can't imagine having gone through such a life changing procedure, and the lead up and the follow-ups afterwards. Everyone has been so spectacular. At no time ever did I feel I was being pressured. At no time ever did I feel like my questions were not worthy of being answered or were silly. I didn't feel like I was just another number, or oh, here comes so and so. And it just, I felt like it was a personal experience, even though I know that they have dozens and dozens of people to care for. But I just, from the very beginning and ongoing, I just have always felt so comfortable and confident in everyone with the Living Donor Program at UHN. It's been a phenomenal experience for something that could very easily have been one of the most terrifying experiences. So I just want to give a big shout out to everyone there who does such remarkable work, and they're the ones who are saving lives. It's just what they do is so amazing. It's been so exciting to share my experience, and I hope that if there's even one person who sees this who thinks that this is something that they might want to do, I am hopeful that everything works out the way it's supposed to in your journey. So thank you so much.